Welcome to the Books and Martinis podcast.
I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy.
And this is your go-to book podcast,
where we lift, empower, and spotlight authors.
Grab your martini and follow along.
And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
Hey, book lovers. This episode of Books and Martinis is brought to you by our wonderful sponsors. BlueBox Media, you dream it, we produce it. And Travel with Samantha Cividanes, specializing in luxury cruises. Ooh. Their support keeps the stories, authors, and conversations flowing. Don't forget to visit them and support the brands that support this podcast. Now the martinis are poured, let's get into the episode. What's up, everyone? Welcome to our podcast. I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy. Welcome, everybody, and a very special welcome to our guest today, which is Demi Winters, all the way from Canada.
Yay!
So, welcome and cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, I got a drink.
To a great interview.
Yes, for good luck.
We are so excited to have Demi Winters on. You guys, she is the author of the Ashen series, and her latest book, Dawn of the North, just came out. This is the fourth book in the series, I think.
Yes, it is.
And this thing is just beautiful. And so if you're watching us, it's beautiful. And we're so excited to have you on. We actually learned about you through Tasanya because you did a little bit of a tour with her. And we're like, oh my God, we need to have Demi on. She's amazing. Yes. And you're so charismatic and fun. Yeah, we love her. We've had her on a couple times already. And we couldn't wait to have this interview to learn more about you and your whole process, how you got here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So like Tasanya, I actually started in the self-publishing space. So my first book, The Road of Bones, I self-published in June 2023. I self-published the second book as well, but an agent found me and then we sold the books to Penguin Random House and the rest has kind of been a little bit of a fever dream.
Wow.
But yeah, so Dawn of the North is my first book written start to finish with my editor at Penguin. And so it was like a whole new learning process to figure out how to write, on a deadline, because when you're self-published, you can just
you make your own rules.
You make it up as you go. Like you can reschedule things and everything. But yeah, it was definitely a learning curve to learn how to. It was good. I did also worry about creating on a deadline. I was worried about that, but no, I was good to go. It wasn't a problem for me. Great. So yeah.
Do you feel that it helped you, or that it did it motivate you to get it done quicker, or was it stressful to have to get it done quicker?
Well, I don't know if it motivated me to get it done quicker, but it was really great on the end of things because, for example, after proofreading and everything, as a self-published author, I could tweak things forever. I could just hunt those missing periods and commas forever. And so having just a cutoff date where it's you can't touch it after this, that was really good for me personally. And yeah, my editor has been really great to work with in that I have really long deadlines. I know I'm not the fastest writer. I take a long time to write these books, and she's been really great about giving me the space that I need to kind of get the story out, and then really helpful with bouncing ideas off her, or when I get stuck with a plot, just to have someone to talk it through.
Yeah.
And the other thing is she's so good at romance, which for me is the hard thing.
That's such a huge plus. That's such a huge plus.
Yeah. So that's been really great as well.
So I do want to roll it back a little bit because I want our listeners to learn a little bit about who you are personally. So we've seen the author you on Instagram and in media, but why don't you bring us a little bit into your world? Who is Demi Winters?
Well, Demi Winters is my pen name. So I almost sometimes feel like Demi is an alter ego. And for example, when my parents pick up this spicy Viking romance books, I'm like, well, Demi's just giving the people what they want. Like when you get to those parts, just know that that's just Demi.
It's not me, Mom.
It's not me. But yeah, like I used to write stories growing up. And I often struggled finishing them. So like I would get a few chapters in and I would be loving the feeling of being creative, would be loving the feeling, but not knowing where the story was going. And eventually I kind of like drifted away from that. I did a couple of degrees in science and I was, I went down the science career path for quite a while until I realized that that wasn't the career path I wanted. I had a baby essentially, and I was like, oh, like I want to be home with my child, and so a lot of my priorities changed, and then this is like I have the most random career trajectories. So after graduating from science, I pivoted and ran a food blog for 10 years.
What?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was like my job was photographing, like developing recipes, photographing the dishes, and running a website. And so I did that for like 10 years, and I slowly started I loved it because it gave me that creative spark back. But gradually, I lost the joy in it because I started making recipes for Google search, which is where like a lot of the income comes from in food blogging is like Google search. You want to rank really high. So, you're like how to make mashed potatoes and like how to grill chicken. And, those are just not filling my creative cup. And so I found myself like really missing that part of it. And I was walking with my mom one day and she's like, I always thought you would write books. And it was like, bing, like a light bulb moment of, I'm going to write a book. At first it was going to be just for fun, but then suddenly it was like going to be 5 books. And it was like, set in this world with all this crazy world building and this magic systems. And I was like, okay, this is more than just like a fun little hobby. Like I want people to actually read this, and I want, I want to publish this and, try to make a living from it. So that's my third pivot. One? My first book, The Road of Bones. So this is my debut series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's going to be 5 full-length novels, like the big ones, plus the novella. So yeah, like you said, it's 4 books, but it'll actually be like 6 by the end if you include the novella.
Wow.
So there's 2 more books to come. Wow. And yeah.
Wow. How do you like, okay, so I've thought about this too. Like, how do you continue the story in a way that's that makes your readers come back and devour the next book? And also just like, how do you continue the saga? Like, is there a secret formula? Like, what do you do to prepare for each book so you make sure if it's not just as good as the last one, it's even better?
Well, that's a good question. I'm admittedly figuring this all out as I go. Like it is my debut series. So I've definitely done some things that I'm like, why did I do that? Now I have to I have 3 romance arcs happening, and I did not realize how hard that was going to be to juggle. So that is like something that not that I regret, but it's definitely been more hard than I thought to keep the balance. But so I wrote The Road of Bones, and I kind of had Kingdom of Claw, which is the second book, in mind while writing it. But aside from that, I didn't know where it was going. I had no plan. And then as a self-published author, I worked with a freelance developmental editor. And she's like, so how does the series end? And I said, I don't know. She said, maybe you should know how it ends. And, I was like, she's right. Like, I love those fantasy books where there's like little hints planted throughout. And then, when you go back and you read them after you've read the series, you're like, oh my God, she told me in chapter 1 what was coming in book 4. So I planned it all out, point format in Google Sheets, like one sentence per chapter, essentially, or per plot point. And I'm really glad I did that. Like, obviously, things have evolved as I write. Like, I've differentiated from the plan a little bit. but the core of the book has remained the same. So one thing that I have learned is that I really like it in a series where each book has its own central conflict, and the characters have their own like inner conflict, and there's like an outer conflict as well. And I love reading those to be resolved. And so I think that's important when you're writing a 5-book series to have readers feel like you're going somewhere, your characters are achieving something, and there's not this sense of frustration where it cuts off in a cliffhanger. Like you get to the climax and it cuts off. Like for me, I want that climax resolved, and then perhaps a new inciting incident kind of introduced at the end, and that keeps people like curious. The other thing that I think helps is having these romance arcs that are ongoing throughout the series. So readers are constantly like, oh, what's going to happen with these characters? And teasing certain things that might happen, just kind of dangling the carrot a little bit for, right? Like you want to see what's going to happen in that romance, and it kind of promises like happy butterfly feelings, to come.
I love how you just mesh it all together and it flows so beautifully.
And especially and these books are just so beautifully written. So you're talking about like having editors who specialize in romance. Are you an action girly? Is that like your specialty?
I'm definitely like a plot forward thinker. And then so my methodology, I'm a writer.
Look at you.
My concept is like usually I'll do the plot, and then I'm like try to squeeze the romance in or like layer it over top. And so one thing that I've learned when working with my editor is to plan it more intentionally, and not just to try to squeeze it in, but to have the romance be more part of the plot. It's definitely a work in progress for me, though.
We live and learn. What does a day look like for you? A writing day? Like, do you write Monday through Friday or 7 days a week? Or how committed or how organized are you? Or do you just, whenever you write, you write?
So I write, I keep like regular work hours, essentially. This is my full-time job now. After I got the book deal with Penguin, I was able to sell my food blog and like close that chapter of my life.
Yay,
and so now,
you.
9 to 5. Thank you. So like a typical day is I get my kids off to school and then I start writing. There are different chapters or different seasons, I guess. And so, for example, in January, I was doing a lot of prep for tour and the book release. And so a day then wouldn't look quite as it does now, but right now I'm very intensely writing book 4. And so I will do a number of writing sprints. So I have this like little timer here, and I set 25-minute writing blocks where I just write, and I don't let myself get interrupted or distracted. I mean, in theory. So one thing that I've learned that works for me is to count sprints rather than word counts, because I used to get, I mean, first of all, I spend about 75% of my time in revisions and edits. My first draft, usually takes me a few months, and it's not super pleasant. So during the first draft, I would probably count words, but during the revision, it's not helpful for me to count words, because I actually think that deleting words is just as important as adding them. And so it's like when you have a day where you've rewritten an entire chapter and you don't get to like add words to your word count, I felt demoralizing. But I it's just like as important as adding those new words. So counting sprints works for me. I aim to do 6 sprints a day, 6 25-minute sprints. And usually I will get 8 to 10. Right now, like when it's just super intense. But if I get 6 and I'm seriously not feeling it, that's it for me. I'll clock out for the day. And that's that. I mean, when I say clock out, I still keep my hours. Like I work 9 to 4:30. There's a lot of admin, a surprising amount of admin to do. And so, I'll deal with my email, I'll deal with messages on Instagram. I have my folder and my PA has hers. So, yeah.
Your list.
So, yeah. And then, we have like lots of little things that my PA and I are doing in the background. Right now, I'm working on getting some indie bookstore kits up and running. So just to promote, to incentivize readers to shop at indie bookstores. So we have these little vellum overlays and signed book plates, and we're shipping them out all over. So I'm sort of like organizing and getting that all up and going. But yeah, so that's kind of,
I have a question.
A day for me.
Yeah, I have questions too. I have questions.
Okay. Okay. My quick question is, on the days that you're touring and you're out there book signing, you're on the road, basically. Do you shut down your brain towards your book that you're also working on writing? Or do you keep working on it when you get home, when you get to the hotel late at night, you still add ideas, or how does that work for you?
So that February was the first time I've actually done a book tour. I did travel to various events in the fall, and I was able to write on the plane and kind of like find pockets of time to write. Actually, I kept up my 6 sprints kind of goal, whereas I had like check boxes. And so I tried to, every day of work that I was missing, I tried to fill in those 6 check marks. So sometimes that meant writing on the plane, and sometimes that meant writing on a Saturday, which I don't normally do. But when it came to February, I was like, I don't think I can do that, because I had something like 12 events. Don't be like Demi. Don't be like me.
You're
human. It was too many events. It was too many slices.
Oh, that's a great problem to have. I just got to say that.
Yeah.
Well, it was like,
be careful what you pray for.
Oh yeah, no. So it was too many, and I was like, I just told my editor, like, I won't be able to write in February, and I think telling her that and setting that boundary for myself was really good for my mental health, and not feeling like, oh, I should be writing. It kind of gave me permission to just like enjoy it, be in the moment a little more.
Good.
And actually, there's like 0 time on tour to write, unless you are writing on the plane, which is really hit or miss for me, honestly. But like, some of our events went till like 11:30 to midnight. Wow. And so we would get back to the hotel after midnight, and then have to get up the next morning at like 7 to get to the airport. And so there really wasn't downtime during the tour. There was downtime after and like between events. Like, I did 4 days in a row of tour, and then I had some time off, and then I had an event. So yeah, there were those like 4 days, but giving myself permission to not write was lovely.
Good for you. Yeah. You want to enjoy also, the fruit of your labor.
Yeah. Because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So you got to like eat up whatever you can, because authors dream of what you're experiencing. They dream of it, so you're in it right now. You got to like soak up as much as you can.
It was so special to spend that time with readers, because, just celebrating the book, like in my daily life, I'm just mom or like, regular old me. And so, I sometimes drive around to bookstores to sign books on release day, but this was the first time I got to celebrate with readers, and that was really lovely.
Oh, love that.
Beautiful.
Okay. So I got a really minute author question, and you touched on it. And you talked about agonizing over the word count. And I feel like that's a thing that we all go through when we're writing. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So how do you curb your anxiety over it? Because, okay, we've done our first draft and we have 80,000 words. And we're like, okay, this is good. 80,000 is good. I can add maybe 10 more thousand, maybe another 20 more thousand in the second draft. And then we get to the second draft and we're deleting. We're like, oh crap, I'm below 80,000 now. This is not good. Publishers or whoever you want to see your book, your manuscript, want more than 80,000 words. And then you're just like, destroyed inside.
Well,
Let's talk about that a little bit. So, how do you curb the anxiety from that? What is the stand? So now that you're in traditional publishing, what do the standards look like?
Yeah,
so
that's
I
a great
feel kind of
question.
like I bypassed that entire problem because like I actually have the opposite problem. I write really long books. So my first book was like 170,000 words. My
Wow.
second book was 195. And I was so proud this one was going to be like 165. But then somehow it gained 10,000 words during
Oh my
edits. So
What?
goodness.
I don't know.
That's
So it's
wonderful.
she's like the middle child now. So actually, that was a large reason that I wanted to self-publish. I didn't want to be bound by these word count rules. I was like, I
Hmm.
want to tell this story, and if this character's backstory adds, 30,000 words, but you understand their actions so much better, like I just want to be able to do that. And so that was why I self-published. And then when they picked it up, I asked, part of my question during the process of selling the book was like, do you plan to edit it or like change anything? And they weren't going to. And so that was a huge plus for me. So then with my contract, I also got it written in that, I don't know, they put word count requirements. It said something like, at first it said something like 110,000 words. I was like, no, it's not gonna work for me.
That's too
Like,
low.
have you read these books? Like, they're not. I think part of it is that I write multiple point of view. And
Mm.
so that just immediately ups the word count when you have multiple
Great
point of
problem.
views.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of a non-answer to your question, that I just kind of bypassed it and did what I wanted.
No, that's a great
That's okay.
answer
That's great
because,
to know.
yeah, that's how you dealt with the anxiety. If you're self-publishing, you make your own rules. So, I
Yeah.
mean, who cares how many
Yeah.
words is in your book?
And you're
It's what
Yeah.
you
talking
want.
about, yeah, you're talking about all these words. So these are heavy duty stories. How long would you say an average book took you to write? Of the four that you've written so far, what was your average? Was it a year? Was it 3 years? Was it a week?
Yeah, it's hard to say because like the first two books, that was me not only figuring out the story, but figuring out how to tell a book like write a compelling book
Hmm.
or a readable book. So there was a lot of writing and then trashing and then starting over and then, getting feedback and pulling it apart and reassembling it. And I learned so much through that. So the first two books, Road of Bones took 2 years. By the time Kingdom of Claw came out, I think it had been almost 3 years. But like I wasn't working on just one at a time. I was right. They were so interlinked that I had to write Claw to understand how to set it up in Bones. And so
Yeah.
Mm.
um it's hard to say, but now, this book took me a full year to write, start to
Wow.
finish, and just over a year. And book four, I've have at this point be working on it for a year, but like, there have been periods where I had to put it aside to work on edits for this book, and then,
Right.
like going on tour. And so those things definitely like interfered with it. So I think they take me about 1 year. And then I
Yeah.
had this little novella. Let me grab it. This book was supposed to go into Kingdom of Claw, which is book two, but the
Mhm.
story didn't fit, and it was going to slow the pacing and pull away from the central kind of story of book two. And so I was self-publishing, so I was like, I'll just do a novella. People love little bite-sized novellas.
Hmm.
Um, then my publisher, they didn't, this wasn't part of my book deal, and so they didn't initially want to pick this up. But now they have, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's selling really well. So
You're like,
all
I
it
thought
all
so.
it
Yeah.
I just want to use that as an example of how self-publishing can give you so much power.
And
Because,
freedom.
they were like, we don't want to publish this. And I was like, fine, I'll publish it myself. And
Yeah.
then they changed their mind later. So, if I had been at the whims of what the publisher wanted, this story never would have been put
Mm.
out. Um, so just, yeah, it's a little sidebar
Great.
there.
Did you?
Your novella reminds me of when you watch Bridgerton, that it's like a whole series, right? But then there's this one, I guess it's like a show, but it was separate. it wasn't linked, but it was the show
Kind
when
of like
when it's the queen,
the
right?
Queen and
It's her
Oh,
Bridgerton.
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, of all of it, that was my favorite. Like I
Hmm.
thought that
Yeah.
that was more compelling than
Sometimes a
all the other
spin-off.
stories,
And you never
right?
know,
Yeah.
like a reader coming into your world, that could be their introduction book.
They're
They could
hooked.
find it on the
Well, this one
shelf.
can't be read out of order. Oh, it
Oh,
could be.
okay.
Yeah.
Cannot.
Maybe they'll be drawn in by the squirrel, the talking squirrel.
Oh,
But
oh.
yeah, the books do have to be read in order. But I
Hmm.
did write Dawn of the North so that you could read it without reading this first. However, readers are still like, you need to read this one because you get Hecla's backstory and all this stuff. It's just
Well,
So are
let's talk
are
about.
any of
Oh,
super quick? It's a yes or no.
okay. Go
Sorry,
ahead. Go ahead.
Priya. Are any of them standalones? In other words, can you read just one? No,
no,
it has to be
no.
sequential. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Priya.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about Dawn of the North. How we got
Yes.
here. All
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So this saga is 4 books deep, novella deep. So,
Hmm.
how did you get to this book? What inspired the pacing, the story, how it all, transgressed since the first book?
Yeah, so I kind of I don't know if anyone else is going to think of it this way, but I kind of think of my 5 book series as like a pair of duologies and then this guy in the middle. So
A middle child.
in books, 1 and 2, we kind of went wide, like we got a broader scope of the worlds, and then book 3 was all about pivoting and kind of bringing things in so that we're going to tie up all the loose ends for in the last 2 books. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of there's like basically 3 different storylines that we're following in Dawn of the North, and um it was partly dealing with the widening of scope that I had introduced in Kingdom of Claw, being like, okay, wait, we need to bring things back in.
Mhm.
And yeah, so just like tying all the storylines together. It's so hard to talk about without talking
I know,
about,
without giving it
book
out.
one.
Mhm.
But
No, yeah, no spoilers.
yeah, so it becomes pretty clear in book 2 that we are building towards a Ragnarok type of event. And so, things are
Dang.
getting a little bit worse in
Hmm.
every book. Um, but the main conflict in Dawn of the North is there's this poisonous mist that is, and people are disappearing. Like the mist will come through and then they disappear, and there's just blood and claw marks, and people are like, where did the people go, and like what's happening, and how do we stop this mist? So that was introduced actually in book 1, as the job that the Blood Axe crew, which is like a band of Viking mercenaries, that was the job they were tasked with completing. So they were heading to this place to defeat the mist, and then some other things happen and they can't quite complete the job. So actually this book is Hecla. She's part of the Blood Axe crew. She's trying to complete the job and it doesn't quite go as planned. So
Mm.
it's still, an issue in Dawn of the North, and it's like bringing everybody together to try to get this job done.
Hmm.
Aw, I
So
love
Hmm.
that.
yeah.
I would love to know, why Vikings? Why did you
Mhm.
choose this storyline? Not
Yeah.
storyline, story theme for your
Mhm.
books. Were you mesmerized by Viking culture before? Were you like looking for something that was different and this
Yeah.
interested you the most? How did that come about?
I knew nothing about Vikings before this. I had watched a little bit of like some of those Viking TV shows, but they certainly weren't like something that I knew a lot about, or that it's not part of my family history or anything like that. I've been to Norway, which and it's a lovely country. But yeah, like
Mhm.
I had no idea, but I was looking for something to differentiate my world. My initial drafts were very medieval, but like generic. And I just love when the setting is like so vivid, it feels like its own character. And so I saw like a random video. I have very few light bulb moments, but this was one, and I was watching like a volcano erupting in Iceland, and it got me thinking about um, all the contrasts of Iceland, and like they got these beautiful fjords and like rolling fields of water of wildflowers, and they've got volcanoes and glaciers, and I just thought that felt so unique and kind of a little bit brutal. And so I decided to set my world in Iceland, and then from there Vikings naturally came, and I did a lot of research to try to root the reader in a little bit of actual history and reality. And I actually think when you do that, it makes it so much easier for people to kind of like digest the world building. It just makes it easier to understand and just feel like a sense of depth in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I love that.
I have a little bit of like Iceland, Greenland fact that I learned recently, and it was so ironic because when we were going through your book, I was just like, so I heard that the reason why Vikings called Iceland is to prevent people from coming to the island, to the country, and exploiting it, because it made people think that, oh, it was a vast wasteland. It was just like ice all over the place. Meanwhile, it's much greener than Greenland, and Greenland is much icier than Iceland. And then Greenland, like when you get there and you're like, oh, it's green, it's we can plant and farm and blah. Nope.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, all the power to the early settlers of Greenland.
Right? These Vikings were smart.
I mean, Iceland too. Iceland is pretty brutal climate.
It is. I was going to say that, Demi. I was going to say, when I was in Iceland and I was looking at everything, you're mesmerized by the beauty, but then you think of the locals and their lifestyle and the lack of light. The lack of light, because it's like the opposite. When we went, it was daylight all day, and there were only a couple of hours of darkness, and it's freezing, and you're wondering how do you adapt to this? I mean, obviously they know that, but when we spoke with locals, we asked them, is this just easy because it's the norm? And they're like, no, this is brutal. I'm like, oh, okay. Those are things, they were born and raised there. Yeah. And they told me, no, this is brutal. This is really hard. This is no fun. But they have to work under really strong conditions. And
so would you ever try a different world? Like, have you thought about another series, another storyline?
Not crazy. We don't finish one and they're already jumping on the next.
Oh no. So when I started writing The Road of Bones, I didn't have any ideas at all. Like, I was like, I'm going to write a story. And then I had to like excavate everything. So, now I feel though that there's like a certain, like, once you become open to ideas, you like receive them, and it's hard to explain, but like once I became open to ideas, then they started coming, but mostly I had to excavate them. So I've tried to be really open to ideas for the next series I write, and slowly I've been collecting things, like a little, like hoarding little ideas away and stuff. So
can you share anything? Are you willing to share anything?
Yeah. I mean, like, I literally haven't told my agent about it, or like nobody. I have no book deal. There's no proposal.
No
there's
spoilers.
Nothing. It's just all like in my head. Yeah. But it would be like in the southern continent, which is I didn't have any idea what was going on in the south of the world that I created. So I just called it the southern continent. But it's like the inciting incident of this plot is triggered by the climax of the Ashen series. So there's like deserts and vampires and possibly like some Greek mythology influence. And that's kind of all I really want to say at the moment.
That's okay. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, what have you found as an author, as a writer, has been your biggest challenge? What has been overall? So that somebody listening can kind of see through your eyes.
That is such a good question. I mean, personally, I really love learning, and I love reading craft books and trying to improve on my writing. I do feel like that, like the writing craft itself is hard. I think also when I started writing, my taste level was up here, but my ability was like down here. And so trying to close the gap so that, my writing skill was a
Right.
match to my taste level, that was really frustrating for me. And I think maybe just having the patience to know that you'll get there eventually. Like now that I have a few books under my belt, I know eventually, like, the first draft is painful. And then,
Yes.
but having the faith that you are going to get there, I have that confidence now. But, when I was first starting, I think I was, looking at how other authors wrote and wondering like, how did they get to that point? And it's just like practice. You got to put the hours in and you eventually find your style of writing and you become comfortable with it. But I just think there was that initial, discomfort. I think that's what it is a discomfort where you're like, this is not good. But like having the tenacity to push through the discomfort to get to the point where you actually are able to create what you were envisioning.
Find
I don't
that
know if that's,
rhythm. Yeah.
yeah.
No,
So
it makes
actually,
absolute sense.
Lee Bardugo has a TED talk about
Mhm.
the discomfort of writing and of, we're, evolutionarily programmed to turn away from discomfort and pain to try to minimize it. But in writing, you actually have to like push through that to get where you need to go. She says it far more eloquently than I do, but I can't
Love
remember the
this.
title, but it was something about discomfort in and writing and Lee
Okay.
Bardugo.
We're taking notes.
What's her first name?
Yes, Lee Bardugo. So she wrote
Right.
like Six of Crows and
Oh,
Crooked Kingdom, and she's big
yeah.
in I don't know if I would call her work romantasy. Like there's some romance in it, but she's an amazing writer.
Thank you.
I
That's
love
Yeah.
wonderful.
that. That's a great
Okay.
tip.
That is a great tip.
Yeah.
And what completely unrelated to everything that's so important that we're talking about, but it's just got me with curiosity. What inspired you to set your library so beautifully like a rainbow?
Okay, so
You
we
Like
know
in the
we
what?
got to
backdrop, it's just
describe it
beautiful.
for our listeners. So
Yeah,
she is sitting in her office, and behind her is a beautiful bookcase that's color coded.
it's gorgeous. It looks like a rainbow.
Well, I don't know what initially started it, but with the black bookshelves and the way the colors pop, I really love it. It gives me like a little boost of joy just being near it, near all these beautiful books.
Mm.
And one time I tried rearranging them logically, like by
Mhm.
author, by
Hmm.
genre, and series were grouped together, and I hate it. I was like, I think it lasted a week. I'm like, I need my rainbow back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
no, I was just saying though that only the books I have read go on the shelf. So like I don't necessarily know where everything is, but everything on the shelf is something I have read, so I shouldn't really need to find it again. I rarely
Love
reread a
it.
book. And if I do,
is
it's
that
usually an audiobook.
is that your writing space?
Yes.
So
Yep.
you are
So
surrounded by a
my
rainbow as you write.
yeah,
Oh,
this is
Love that.
a
love that.
weird, awkward room, actually. And when I first started writing, I was writing amongst moving boxes on a fold-up table in this room. Um,
Mm.
and eventually, like I slowly moved all the boxes out and I slowly moved, I got a proper desk and my husband built the bookshelves out of
Oh,
IKEA. So it's just like IKEA and he framed it in. Um, and it just changed the whole vibe of the space.
That's
oh,
So
oh, it's
that's
beautiful.
love.
It is beautiful.
thank
Yeah.
you.
What are
Mhm.
you currently reading? Are you reading anything
Oh
right
my
now,
gosh.
or is there something on your TBR that you're just dying to pick up?
I am reading, I don't want to butcher the name
Okay.
because Heir of Prophecy by Annalise Sabrana. I'm
Oh,
very, very early into this book.
okay.
I'm also going on a Cressley Cole deep dive. I missed out. I didn't read a lot when I was in science and school. And so I feel like I missed out on an entire like decade or two of books. So I'm kind of like in my 2006 era right now, like reading Cressley Cole, Immortals After Dark. And it's super fun. You can see where like modern romantasy authors have, where the original kind of inspiration came from for a lot of these things is, back in the early 2000s and in the 90s as well. But it's fun. I like to, I don't know. I feel like it's good to read outside of like what is currently popular and just like go back and see what it was, all the stuff I missed out on.
And I have another question. If so, so those that are watching you because they are fans like us are like loving everything, including the description of the background and that rainbow that covers you. Those that are listening because they want to learn from you, is there any advice that you would give a new writer, an aspiring writer, somebody that's debating their readers and they're thinking, I love reading and I would love to tell a story, but I don't know that I could tell a story. Is there something that you want to tell them?
I mean, yeah, you can tell a story, and it just takes practice and it takes consistent feedback. So one thing that I definitely took from my background in science was to get constant feedback. So I had not constant, I will say like controlled feedback, because you don't want somebody like constantly in your ear. But I got the book to where I could no longer improve it. I was like, there's issues. I don't know how to fix them. And I don't know how to even identify quite what the issues are. And so then I got, my developmental editor really helped me hone in on story structure. And then after that, I had a lot of beta readers help me figure out, um, you know, how my writing is coming across, because in our minds we think we're being super clear about things, but it might not come across on page. And so there's a lot of subtleties too in romance, and it's hard when you're so close to it, to see what's needs to be fixed. So having that outside feedback is something I think is very, very important. um yeah, so I just advise people, and the other thing is that I think it helps harden you to criticism. So just like having that work out there, and having those reviews coming in. I have personally got like a really hard skin. I think also I'm really good at like cutting the cord after, like, currently the book that I'm writing with, I'm absolutely obsessed with. But so if I were to get feedback on it, it might hurt a little more. But by the time it's out there in the world, it's like I've cut the cord. The book is its own thing. It is not me. And I think also just having like that feedback and having put the effort into the editing process to make the book as good as it can be, that gives me confidence that when those negative reviews do come in, I'm like, it makes me more less sensitive. One thing that I would tell my past self, this is a little different, but this is something I would tell my past self. When I was writing, I was surrounded by a lot of self-published authors who were rapid releasing like 5 books a year. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I taking 2 years to get this book to where it needs to be? And I would tell myself, my past self, that you are doing what you need to do. And that I've been taking this like almost like a mantra of less but better, and not that it's better than my peers, but it's better than what I would put out if I was putting out multiple books a year. And so I guess I think putting out the absolute best product that I could was always really important to me, and I would tell my past self, like, that is the way you need to do it, because yeah, I just really want my books to be something I'm proud of. And even book one with the faults I can see in it, I'm still like really proud of it. So
that's awesome. Such great advice. To not take things.
Your pride shows.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we so appreciate you for coming on today and talking about your experience and your process. And we got to say, this is monumental. You're 100-something thousand words. This is
It's a doorstop.
It's awesome. Monumental. So thank you so much for being our guest today. How can our listeners and our readers and our watchers, how can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on social media as Demi Winters Writes. I have a Discord group that's reasonably active. And if you find me on Instagram, I have like a link tree. You can find links to everything. But yeah, thanks for having me.
No,
thank you, Demi. We really appreciate all the love you put behind sharing the do's and don'ts of writing. So we appreciate you, and we hope that all of our listeners appreciate you as much as well.
Exactly. So if you're listening, pick up her series, the Ashen series. Her latest book, Dawn of the North, is out. Yeah. And make sure you like, share, follow, subscribe. Let's do one last cheers, guys. Yeah. Cheers to your success, Demi.
Demi.
Thank you.
Yep. For good luck, we got a drink.
Yeah, salute. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Demi.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.